You spent good money on a new television. You brought it home, plugged it in, and thought, okay, this looks decent, but something feels a little off. Maybe the colors look too punchy. Maybe the picture seems overly bright or almost plastic-looking. Maybe the motion during a movie feels strange, like you are watching a soap opera instead of a Hollywood film. You did not imagine that. Something really is off. And the frustrating part is, it is probably not your TV. It is how your TV is set up. This is one of the most common things people experience after buying a new television in 2026. Whether it is a Samsung, an LG, a Sony, a TCL, a Hisense, or a Roku TV. And the brands will not tell you this in the manual. So today we are going to walk through 7 specific mistakes that quietly destroy picture quality in most living rooms and exactly how to fix them without spending a single dollar more. Before we get into it, go ahead and subscribe if you find this kind of practical guidance useful. Drop a comment below telling me what TV you are currently using and what picture problems you are noticing, whether it is dim blacks, weird motion, oversaturated colors, or something else. I read every comment. There are also some helpful links in the description below if you are looking for recommended settings or product comparisons. Let us start at the very beginning, because the first mistake happens before you even change a single setting. When your television arrives from the factory, it is not configured for your living room. It is configured for a bright, loud retail showroom floor, where it is competing for attention against 50 other screens. The factory default is almost always something called vivid mode or dynamic mode, and it is specifically designed to look eye-catching under those conditions. Colors are oversaturated. Contrast is cranked up unnaturally. Whites are pushed almost blinding. It grabs your attention in the store, but in your home, under normal lighting, it looks harsh, artificial, and exhausting to watch for long periods. Mistake 1. Using vivid or dynamic picture mode. The fix here is straightforward. Go into your picture settings and switch to movie mode or filmmaker mode. Both of these are designed around what the content actually looks like, the way the director intended it to be seen. If your TV has filmmaker mode specifically, use that. It disables most of the artificial processing automatically. You will notice the picture gets a little quieter and more natural right away. Some people feel like it looks less impressive at first, and that is actually a good sign. It means the processing has calmed down, and the image is now showing you reality instead of a performance. Mistake 2. Leaving motion, smoothing turned on. Now we get to what is probably the most complained about issue in home theater, and most people have no idea what is causing it. You sit down to watch a film, something like a classic drama or an action movie shot on proper cinema cameras, and it looks wrong. It looks like a TV drama from the 90s. Movements feel too smooth. The depth feels flat. The whole cinematic quality just evaporates. What you are experiencing is called the soap opera effect, and it is caused by a feature called motion smoothing. On LG televisions, this feature is called True Motion. On Sony, it is called Motion Flow. Samsung uses something called Auto Motion Plus. The names change, but the problem is the same. These processors try to generate extra frames between the ones that actually exist in the video, which sounds helpful, but ends up making 24 frames per second film content look like it was shot on a cheap video camera. Turn it off. Go into your picture settings, find motion or advanced motion, and disable it completely. Or if your TV offers a user mode, set the judder reduction to a low value and the blur reduction to 0. Films will suddenly start looking like films again. Mistake 3. Sharpness set too high. The third mistake is something almost every TV ships with active, and most people never touch it. It is called sharpness enhancement or edge enhancement. You might think more sharpness means better picture. It does not work that way with modern TVs. What the sharpness control actually does on most televisions is artificially process the edges of objects in the frame and add a kind of halo or outline around them. This creates the illusion of crispness, but actually introduces visual noise and artifacts that were never in the original content. On most televisions, the correct sharpness setting is somewhere between 0 and 10 on a scale of 0 to 100. Yes, that low. If you are on a Samsung, try setting sharpness to 0 first and see how it looks. On Sony, their scale is different, and a setting around 50 is often neutral. On LG, anything above 10 starts adding artificial processing. Modern 4K content is already incredibly detailed. The sensor in the camera that captured it does not need your TV to add fake sharpness on top. Trust the source. Mistake 4. Noise reduction is quietly ruining your dark scenes. The fourth mistake is related, and it concerns a feature called noise reduction. This sounds like it should be helpful. Nobody wants noise in their picture. But what noise reduction actually does is smooth over fine details in the image, especially in darker scenes or content with natural film grain. If you watch older movies or content that has intentional grain as part of its artistic look, noise reduction literally smears that grain away and replaces it with a soft, almost smeary quality that looks worse, not better. Turn off all forms of noise reduction. Most televisions have a general noise reduction setting, and then a separate one specifically for digital compression artifacts, sometimes called MPEG noise reduction or compression artifact reduction. Disable both of them. Your picture will have more honest texture, and your dark scenes will retain their depth and detail instead of looking like someone put a soft filter over everything. Mistake 5. Eco mode is dimming your picture without you knowing. Now here is a mistake that is almost invisible because it happens quietly in the background. Many televisions have an eco mode or a power-saving mode that is either enabled by default or gets turned on automatically. In the European Union especially, energy regulations introduced around 2025 and 2026 have led manufacturers to make eco modes more aggressive and in some cases auto-activating. What this does is dim the backlight, reduce peak brightness, and in some cases actually alter color processing to save power. The result is a picture that looks dim, washed out, and slightly greenish or cool in tone, and you might think your panel is just not that bright, when actually the TV is holding itself back. Go into your settings, look for eco settings or energy saving, and turn it off. Then manually set your backlight to a level that works for your room. In a typical American living room with some daylight, a backlight between 45 and 50 is reasonable on a Samsung. In a controlled, darker European-style viewing room, 35 to 40 often looks more natural. On LG OLEDs, look for the OLED light control and set it around 80 for normal viewing and 60 for a darker, dedicated space. Mistake 6. You are plugged into the wrong HDMI port. The fifth mistake has nothing to do with picture settings at all. It is about which HDMI port you are plugging your devices into. This one matters more than most people realize. Not all HDMI ports on your television are the same. On most modern televisions, only 1 or 2 ports are full bandwidth 4K ports capable of handling 4K at 120 Hz, high dynamic range, and enhanced audio return channel. The other ports may only support older HDMI 1.4 standards, which caps you at 4K 30 Hz and eliminates a lot of the premium features you paid for. Check your TV's manual or look at the labels directly on the ports. Samsung typically labels their premium port as HDMI 2.1 or marks it for ultra-high definition. LG and Sony have similar labeling. If you are connecting a gaming console, a streaming stick, or a Blu-ray player and it is going into the wrong port. You could be losing resolution, losing HDR, or limiting refresh rate without knowing it. Move your primary device to the correct port and make sure the input label in your TV settings is set appropriately. Enhanced format or Ultra HD or whatever your TV calls it. Mistake 7. Color temperature. Set too cool. The sixth mistake is something that affects how skin tones look, how whites appear, and how comfortable the picture is to watch for extended periods. It is called color temperature. Most televisions ship with a very cool color temperature, often around 9,300 Kelvin or higher. This pushes whites toward blue and gives the entire image a slightly cold, clinical feel. Some people initially think this looks sharp and detailed, but it is actually inaccurate. The standard for film and professional content is 6,500 Kelvin, which is a slightly warm, neutral white. On Samsung, look for a setting called Warm 2. On LG and Sony, look for Warm or Expert 1 in the color temperature options. This single change often makes a bigger difference to perceived picture quality than almost anything else, because it corrects how every color in the image appears, not just white. Skin tones become more natural. Shadows get warmth and depth. The overall picture feels more like looking through a clean window instead of a fluorescent light. Bonus mistake. Your streaming app may not be sending 4K at all. The seventh and final mistake is one that applies specifically to smart TV streaming, and it catches a lot of people off guard. When you open Netflix or another streaming app directly through your television's built-in system, those apps often default to lower streaming quality settings. They may not automatically detect your internet speed or enable 4K streaming unless specific conditions are met. And if your account plan does not include 4K, you will never see it regardless of your TV's capabilities. Go into the settings within each individual streaming app and check what resolution it is actually streaming at. Netflix requires a premium plan for 4K. The app itself sometimes needs you to manually enable the highest quality option. On top of that, if your internet connection is inconsistent, or your TV is connected over Wi-Fi rather than a wired Ethernet connection, the app will automatically reduce quality to maintain a stable stream. If 4K HDR content looks soft or muted to you, a direct Ethernet connection to your router is often the single biggest improvement you can make. OLED versus Mini LED. How these mistakes affect different panel types. Now let us talk briefly about how these mistakes play out differently depending on your panel technology. If you have an OLED television from LG or Sony, your strengths are already extraordinary. OLEDs produce true black because each pixel generates its own light and can turn completely off. The infinite contrast ratio is real, and it looks genuinely beautiful in dark room viewing. But OLEDs typically peak somewhere between 800 and 1500 nits of brightness, which means in a very bright living room with sunlight coming through windows, they can look a bit dim compared to the latest mini LED panels. On an OLED, keeping noise reduction off and not aggressively processing the image is especially important because the panel itself does not need help. It just needs to be left alone. If you have a mini LED television, like a Samsung Neo QLED or a TCL6 series or similar, your peak brightness can exceed 2000 nits, which is genuinely impressive in bright rooms. But mini LED panels use a technique called local dimming, where zones of backlights dim together, and this can create a phenomenon called blooming, where bright objects in a dark scene appear to have a faint halo of light around them. Getting your sharpness, Noise reduction and local dimming settings tuned correctly on these panels matters a lot. Aggressive settings will actually make blooming worse. Calmer processing often produces a cleaner, more cinematic result. The right order to fix your TV settings. Step by step. Across all of these, whether you have a $400 Hisense or a $3,000 Sony Bravia, the fundamental principle is the same. The factory settings are optimized for retail attention, not for your living room. Almost every default is turned up too high. Almost every processing feature is enabled when it should be off. And the most impressive picture settings are often the simplest ones, because they do less to the image rather than more. If you want to approach this methodically, start with mode selection first. Switch to movie or filmmaker, then turn off motion smoothing, then lower sharpness dramatically, then disable noise reduction, then check your eco settings and backlight level. Then verify you are using the right HDMI port. Then adjust color temperature toward warm. That sequence alone will transform most televisions from a store demo into something that actually reflects the quality of the content you are watching. The best picture is the one the director intended. The best television setup is not the one with the most features turned on. It is the one that gets out of the way and lets the content speak for itself. After 30 years of watching this industry evolve, through tube televisions, plasma screens, early LCD panels, and now 4K OLED and mini LED displays that would have seemed impossibly good to audiences just a decade ago. The most consistent truth I have found is this. The picture the director and cinematographer intended already exists in the file or the stream. Your job as a viewer is simply not to let your television ruin it. So, go through your settings this week. Make these changes one at a time so you can see the difference. And when you do, come back and tell me what changed for you. What TV are you using right now? And what is the one picture problem that has been bothering you most? Drop it in the comments below. I respond to as many as I can. And if there is a specific brand or model that keeps coming up, I will cover it in a dedicated video. Links to recommended settings guides and some of the products I reference are in the description. Take your time with this. There is no rush. The right setup for your room is the one that makes you want to keep watching. And now you have exactly what you need to find it.